Ladies and gentlemen, members of the jury, members of the Rule the Tape film crew, welcome to another episode of Rule the Tape podcast with Manager Marty. I'm your host, Manager Marty. Let's talk some boxing real quick. Y'all know what we're going to talk about, right? So let's just get right into it. Oh, but before we get right into it, I want to welcome each and every last one of you. If you're watching a replay of this live, appreciate you. Come on in. Yeah, you don't have to wait. Just come on in, grab a plate, have a seat. I got some food for thought for you. If you're watching the live, come on in. Don't hold the door open because you're going to let the air out. Come on in, grab a plate, have a seat. I got some food for you too. Food for thought. I want to talk about this whole controversy between Boots and Brian Norman Jr. Y'all know who Boots is, Jaron Ennis. We know who he is. We know who Brian Norman Jr. is now, some of us. Most of us didn't know who he was. I knew who he was as far as like being a professional boxer. Some people didn't know who Brian Norman Jr. was. Just a couple months ago, nobody was really talking about him, but now he's in the headlines right now, and we got to deal with it. Double salute to my guy, All Things. He's a member of the channel, supervisor of the Rule the Tape film crew. Always a good thing and a pleasure to see you, All Things. Come on in, y'all. We got to let the viewership increase as we get this show rolling. I'm not going to keep y'all all too long. This is stuff that we've heard thus far. I just have to give y'all my perspective to another level now that we heard Eddie Hearn speak on it. He put the numbers out there. We were told in different interviews all week long, and even 2 weeks, that Matchroom through Eddie Hearn and Eddie Hearn through Matchroom have sent lowball offers to Brian Norman Jr. to fight Boots. And yeah, y'all hear that in the background, right? That's how this show gonna go. Intense. Quick, fast, in a hurry. Y'all heard that, right? So we know that that's not true. And we gotta deal with it, man. Look, y'all know me. I call it straight down the middle. Because it's all about truth. That's what it's all. It's not about me. It's not about, what I feel. I don't get into my feelings. We deal with the facts here. And what I notice from time to time here on YouTube, I always say this. People always say facts over feelings. Most of the time on YouTube, when it comes to boxing, it's not facts over feelings. You know what it is? It's fighters over facts. People will choose a fighter over dealing with the facts. And y'all know we don't do that here. So we got to deal with the realities of what we're talking about right now. Before I get into all of this, I definitely encourage each and every last one of you to subscribe to the channel. Y'all can do it right now. Click on the like button. Y'all can do that right now as well. Let the likes be congruent with the viewership that we have right now. We got to talk boxing. Who that right there? What's up, Mia? What's going on, sweetheart? Good to see you. I know some people don't want to hear this, but we have to deal with it. It's funny to me that people don't know the business of boxing, right? But they will discredit me because I do know the business of boxing. And I don't want to toot my own horn because it's not about me, right? But I'm the most qualified candidate in the boxing community on YouTube to speak on situations like this because it pertains to the business of boxing, right? And the thing is this, right? There's no other reason why this fight and the negotiations of this fight is falling apart. There is no other reason. I'm going to explain to you all the reason, and I'm going to give you evidence to substantiate what I'm saying. But before I do that, let me play this interview real quick. I'm not going to play the whole entire interview. I'm going to play most of it because Boots, I might play most of it, or all of it, because it's only 2 minutes and some change. YSM Sports Media interviewed Boots. Boots came out and he gave his perspective on what's going on in negotiations between Eddie Hearn from Matchroom, who is a co-promoter of this fight that possibly may or may not happen between Boots and Brian Norman Jr. And I say co-promoter because, of course, he is the primary promoter. But also, we know Boots has his own promotion company. Let me start this off by playing what Boots said. We're going to air fry on it, and then I want to hear what y'all think about this. But we're going to air fry on it. But let me play what Boots said and roll the tape on what Boots said on YSM Sports Media, which was published earlier today.
Here with IBF welterweight champion Jaron Ennis. What's good with you, Bruce?
What's going on?
You in the headlines again. The negotiations with Brian Norman Jr. is going viral. You know, you've done interviews, they've done interviews. Any update on negotiations?
Right now, like I'm staying behind the scenes right now and not talking too much. You know, staying behind the scenes, trying my best ability to make this fight happen, and that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Now, word was that y'all were close to a deal, close to an agreement, close to a number. Is that true? Can we expect an announcement for this fight soon?
We sent another offer, you know, and he asked for almost double, you know. So, you know, we trying our best to make this fight happen.
How many offers have you sent so far?
3.
So you've gone up
each and every time.
Each and every time.
Yep. So I don't know if they looking for a retirement check or what. Like I said, I'm here to collect belts. I'm here to be undisputed, you know, and collect all these belts and make the biggest fights possible happen, you know.
What's the most important thing to you right now? Is it money or is it legacy?
Legacy. You know, I'm here to be undisputed. You know, I'm taking over this weight division. You know, I'm here to collect belts.
Okay. Is it safe to say this would be his highest payday ever?
Most definitely. I heard you say something about something, I ain't a big dog or something like that. If you think I ain't a big dog, why would you turn down your biggest payday or multiple times? Come on, let's go make this fight happen.
Is that your message to Brian Norman Jr.? Because I know the dad's done a lot of interviews and vice versa. So if you were talking to the fighter, what would you say?
Yeah, they doing a lot of talking. They doing too much talking, you know, and they ain't doing no action, you know. Sign them papers, man. Sign them down the lines, and stop putting on a show for the Instagram and YouTube and do all these interviews and all that. But nobody want to hear none of that. Sign that dotted line, make this fight happen. I want the fight. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen right now.
Well, that was Boots. Y'all heard what Boots said. He said, let's make the fight happen right now. And you know, I want to say something because people are starting to be, you know, in the comments section on YSM Sports Media and even in other people's comments section, and they're saying that Brian Norman Jr. probably didn't make no more than $100,000 in his last fight. You know where they got that from. I just want everybody to be clear that when I quote something, when I make up something, when I say something about the business of boxing, just put my name on it. You know, if you got it from me, just say Manager Marty said. Because you know I can back everything up I say. All I'm saying about that is this. Brian Norman Jr., and I'm not knocking him. I'm just calling this whole situation out for what it really is, man. Brian Norman Jr., you never heard this nowhere else. That's why I'm glad you're here. Brian Norman Jr. was scheduled one time to fight for 12 rounds, which was in his last fight. Brian Norman Jr. did not headline his own boxing event. In other words, he wasn't the main event. And I'm talking about past a 4-round fight. Past the 6-round fight. And speaking of 6-round fight, the last time we saw Brian Norman Jr. knock anyone out prior to his last fight was in 2021, 3 years ago, in a 6-round bout. These are all facts. We got to put the facts out. This is not me throwing no shots or no shade or none of that. We're putting the facts out there. Why are the facts important? Because if you just throw the last 3 or 4 things that I just said in a pot and stir it up, you will see that Brian Norman Jr., under normal circumstances, would not be a likely candidate to make a boatload of money of $1.75 million in the situation that he's in right now. I'm talking about my perspective because I know the business of boxing. It's a great opportunity for him. The other thing that I want to say is that Brian Norman Jr.'s dad, Brian Norman Sr., said when Mill City Boxing asked him, what was the amount of money that was offered, life-changing money, Brian Norman Sr. quoted himself, and I'm going to quote him right now, and he said, his words, not mine, it was decent money, but it wasn't life-changing money. That's what, when Mill City asked him that, that's what the man said. I rolled the tape and played it right here on Tuesday. That is life-changing money. 1.7 million is life-changing money to a fighter who's locked into a guaranteed contract with a promoter. That's life-changing money. And I have to say this as well. Brian Norman Jr. has never fought on a main event card as himself being the headliner on pay-per-view. Why am I bringing all of this up? It's very important. You know why I'm bringing it up? Because how can you make any kind of demands when the last 4 or 5 things that I just said, which are facts, are the case? If all 4 or 5 things of what I just said are true, which we know that they are, about Brian Norman Jr., how can you come back and make all these different counter offers? Eddie Hearn, hold up. I'm not going to do this and say what Eddie Hearn said. Let's hear what Eddie Hearn said. I was going to tell you what Eddie Hearn actually said. I am going to play it, but Boots even just said it. YSM Sports Media said to Boots, how many times did you all make an offer? Boots said 3 times. Eddie Hearn said every time they went back in the negotiations after the offers were rejected, he added an additional $250,000 on it. That's how it added all the way up to 1.75. 3 offers. As my man said, he just said it in the chat. Many Face Publishing. Double salute to my guy, Many Face Publishing. Like he always say, I'm doing way too much talking. I'm going to roll the tape. Now, here's the thing, Baker, in the chat. He is a champion. But he's an interim champion. I just want to be clear with this. Let's be clear on this. And we respect the fact that Brian Norman Jr. is an interim champion. But you can't walk around here like you already have notoriety, like you already arrived. And Brian Norman Sr., his dad, was talking like he's already arrived, and the young man haven't. And yes, granted, he fought a guy and knocked him down and, knocked him out. A guy who was 32 wins and 0 losses. That's respectable. But that doesn't equate to the money part. Because here's the thing. If Brian Norman Jr., he said it, his words, not mine, say that he can knock Boots out, because that's what we heard him say. He said he will and can knock Boots out. So my thing is, let's say he can knock Boots out in 8 rounds. You mean to tell me 1.75, $1.750,000 is not enough money to knock a person out within 8 rounds? When you're not used to making a quarter of that or a third of that? I'm just asking, or even half of that? I'm just asking the question. That's all I'm saying. It don't make no difference. I already told y'all on Tuesday. I told y'all Tuesday, remember? I told y'all Tuesday. Remember what I told y'all on Tuesday about how much the money was going to have to be allocated. Remember I told you that in my live. Double salute to my guy. Man, I texted him the other day and I told him I love how he stand on business and he stand behind every word that he said. He reminds me of myself. And I'm talking about my guy from GHB TV, the great Greg Hackett. He's one of my favorite, and I'm not saying that because he's here. Him and my other guy, my favorite coaches in the amateurs. Greg and my other guy. And my other guy. My man, Coach Bay. They my guys. All I'm saying is this, Greg. People got to understand the business of boxing, Greg. And all I'm saying is Brian Norman Jr., we don't know who I'm not saying nobody don't know who he is, but 2 months ago, y'all wasn't talking about this guy. The young boy can rumble. Hey, I'm not saying he can't fight, but him saying he's going to knock Boots out, it should be easier to sign the contract. That's all I'm saying. If somebody offer you 1.75 and you know you can knock the person out and you know you ain't making no more than 100,000 in your last fight and the fights beyond that being locked into a guaranteed contract, hey, guess what? This should be an easy decision to make to go on and sign. And I also have to say this because Brian Norman Jr. said, I don't know if it was on Twitter or Instagram, I saw one of the little posts. He said that Boots is ducking him. What I'm trying to figure out is how is Boots ducking Brian Norman Jr. when Boots is the A side? Didn't Boots promotion company, Boots, of course, he represents his own promotion company, but Eddie Hearn didn't, hold on. Didn't Eddie Hearn, who Boots worked with, his promoter, didn't he reach out to Brian Norman Jr.? So how can the A side duck the B side when the A side reached out to the B side? I don't get it. And the thing is that Brian Norman Sr. got on Mill City Boxing and everybody else's platform. And I'm not mad at him. I'm not hating on him, but I got to keep it all the way 100. He got on everybody's platform and was giving people the impression that it was a low ball offer. Everybody believed it. Like, dang, this wasn't life-changing money. Dang, they try to lowball y'all. Y'all know y'all worth. But remember, I told y'all in boxing and in sports and in life in general, what I tell y'all on Tuesday, and I told y'all 2 years ago, your worth is not based on how you feel and what you think. Your worth is based on the value that you can add to the person willing to make the investment. And I also gave y'all an analogy. Remember, some of y'all wasn't here. And I'm glad you wasn't, because now I'm going to spin the block and bring the analogy back up. And I love the fact that Greg is here because Greg been telling me this. He been telling me this for a few months. I'm going to work on it, G. Heck, I'm going to work on it. Doing like classes or doing videos for men. You know what I mean? And this is one of the examples I want to give because it's relative. And I said this on Tuesday. I'm going to say it again. When I'm in the dating environment with women, right? I ask this question, and I recommend any man or woman that's watching live and living color in the replay of this live, take a page out of Manager Marty's book and ask this question. If you're a man, especially if you're a man, ask this question. Because you know a lot of people that say, I know my worth, I know my worth. Women that say it mostly more than men, but men say it too. But let's just use this as a reference. Like if a woman, you hear women say, I know my worth. I'm not settling for less. I'm not lowering my standards, right? So a lot of women say that all the time, right? So in the dating environment, you know the question I ask women? I don't ask them about their worth. That's not important to me. I don't ask them, what do you bring to the table? That's not important to me. You know the question that I ask? And I hope somebody's listening right now to go ahead and steal this page. I mean, you can go ahead and borrow it. Go ahead and borrow it because it's going to work. I ask this question. Forget your worth. I'm not going to ask you about your worth. How can you add value to my life? Yeah. Let me let that sink in. I'm going to let y'all process that while I look for Eddie Hearn interview that I watched last night. How can you add value to my life? Because I'm good by myself. I'm cool. I'm just asking, how can you add value to my life? What's up, Smooth Criminal? That's the question. That's the question that I ask. Women, hey, you can ask a man that. If you're and I'm not talking about a man that you're already involved with. I'm not talking about a man that you're already in a relationship with or a marriage. I'm talking about if you're single and you're trying to get to know people. Ask them. Men and women, ask the significant other or the potential significant other. Ask, how can you add value to my life? In other words, your worth is not important to me. Your worth is your worth. Good. What you bring to the table, That's not important to me. I'm glad you can bring all that to the table. That's what's up. But how can you add value to my life? Because I'm willing to make the investment with my time, with my resources, right? With my energy, with my affection, and with my money. But it's got to be based on the value you can add. So when Brian Norman Sr., you see I'm going to spin the block. When Brian Norman Sr. got on Mill City Boxing and said that his son was being lowballed and they know their worth, the question I had, and I asked this on Tuesday, was what value do Brian Norman Jr. add to Matchroom and Eddie Hearn? What value can he add? Because listen, Eddie Hearn and the Zone, they got to be the ones to put the money up, right? And make the investment in this fight. And put the marketing and promotion dollars behind this, right? It's a lot of expenses that a promoter has to incur to produce a show, to produce a boxing event. So it has to be worth it. Double salute to my guy, Kamal Oz. What's going on, brother? So the question becomes, how can Brian Norman Jr. add value to this promotion? Because we've seen what Boots can do. Boots came right to the Wells Fargo and he did a wonderful job with the ticket sales. We can't deny it. We can't compare that to Brian Norman Jr. We have no references for Brian Norman Jr. This is not a knock on him. I'm just keeping it all the way 100. What is the reference that we can use for Brian Norman Jr.? Did he ever sell out in his hometown? No. Did he ever headline his own card as the main event attraction in his hometown after 6 rounds? No. When's the last time we saw Brian Norman Jr. Get a knockout? Before his last fight in 2021. How many rounds was that fight scheduled for? 6. How many times did he compete in a 12-round fight? Once, which was his last fight. You see where I'm going with this? This is not me hating on him. Because I see people keep emailing me talking about I'm hating on his dad and all. Y'all got to stop this when I call fathers out on this. Y'all got to stop this when I'm breaking down the business of boxing. I'm just using it as a teachable moment, a teachable lesson for all the other boxers that be watching this channel, for all the other parents that be watching this channel, from all of you, the Roller Tape Film crew members that watch this channel. You learn more about the business of boxing from this channel alone in the last 2 years than you ever did. I'm just keeping it 100 with you. So all I'm saying is when I say stuff and I'm coming from the perspective of the business of boxing, please stop saying I'm a hater. Brian Norman Sr. was basically making it seem like because they have a belt and Boots have a belt, they on the same level. And quite frankly, they are not. I ain't even get to how I think the fight's going to play out physically. I'm talking about behind the scenes from the guys and girls in the boots and suits, the business. Let me get to Eddie Hearn. Because I watched this interview last night with Eddie Hearn, how he broke it down, and he actually put the numbers out there. So I'm going to let that question process. Think about that. How can you add value to my life? Your worth is not important to me. Your worth is for you. Your standards is for you. How can you add value to my life? That's what I want to know. How can Brian Norman Jr. add value? Because if Eddie Hearn is willing to put out 1.75 million, he's got to be confident enough that he's going to recoup that, number one, and then make a profit off of it after he recoup. This is just basic business 101. That's all. Hey, that's all I'm saying. Who's that? Gary? Salute to you, Gary. Thank you for giving me my flowers. I appreciate that. Let me see if I can find, because last night I was watching this. This is right here. Oh, I found it. Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up right now. All right. This is Eddie Hearn now. Can we get the likes up? Hold up, I can't play nothing until we get the likes up. Can we just get, listen, I don't ask for much. Can I just get one like? I don't ask for much. I'm the least paid YouTuber on here. I give the most information, but I'm the least paid. I'm the least supported, but I'm the most insulted. I only ask for one thing. Can I get one like? Just one. I don't ask for much. Because the thing is, this is why I'm asking for the likes. Because I want the education to reverberate all across the YouTube boxing community. Because when the algorithm hit, somebody gonna learn from this. That's all. Hey, it's just for the algorithm. Think about the question I asked. Listen, think about it. How can you add value to my life? As a man, ask that lady that question, man. Stop getting caught up into her beauty and outward appearance. Ask that question to get here in the mind. Most women don't even know how to answer that right away. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes a quick response may not be necessary. But I'm just saying, if you ask that question, then you'll be able to understand how important it is to set a standard for yourself. Because you have to, as a man, you have to be the one to be willing to make an investment with your time, with your resources, with your affection, with your energy, with your money. And you have to make sure that when you make an investment, you're going to get a great return on it. And how will you know that? Because it's based on the value that's being added. Double salute to my guy. First and not the last super chat of the evening. My guy, Kamal Oz. Thank you for your super chat. Kamal says salute. Salute, brother. So all I'm saying is, in the context of boxing, if Brian Norman Jr. is not capable of adding value, but he's still able to receive a 1.75 compensation, he shouldn't turn that down. He ought to be grateful. Because who else can Brian Norman Jr. fight right now? Get out your feelings. Because I know when this live go off, you know I'm waiting for the controversy. That's why they call me Mr. Controversy. I'm waiting for it. As soon as it go off, I already know what's going to happen. And I'm willing to have a conversation with anybody about it. But this is my question, though. Who else can Brian Norman Jr. fight right now in a 12-round fight, even with his belt on the line, besides Boots, for $1.75 million? Can anybody in the chat tell me? That's all I want to know. Who else can he fight right now for $1.75 million under a guaranteed contract with Top Rank for his belt in the 12-round fight? We ain't got to go back and forth. Just give me one name. I'm talking about at 147. Just give me one name. I see a couple people in the chat said, nobody. Somebody said Elon Musk. I see a couple people saying nobody. Smooth Criminal said nobody. Thank you. Nobody. Many Face Publishing says Devin Haney. Not at 147. Shit. It's hard for Devin Haney to come by 1.75. I'm talking about by itself. Yeah. Who else can he fight? So if the answer is nobody, then that makes the decision much easier to fight Boots. Let's hear what Eddie Hearn said when he went in on what's going on behind the scenes with hey, Many Face, I'm doing way too much talking. Don't take my word for it. Roll the tape.
I do want to ask you, since we're stateside, I guess it makes sense. Boots Ennis. Yeah. Last time we spoke, you talked about reaching out to Norman's team and looking to make that fight. What is the latest update?
Do you know what? Like, it's frustrating because you hear everything that Brian Norman Sr. or his daddy's saying, and none of it really makes sense. Like, if this is a really simple situation. The first offer that was made to Brian Norman was nicely over $1 million. They said that they felt that, not insulting, but was nowhere near. We've made 2 more offers, $250,000 every time now, to levels that Brian Norman will never see. And it's like, we keep getting told we're close, then we go back and make another offer, and then we're told by his team that we're actually not that close. And I start to think, Brian Norman, do you want this fight, or are you clout chasing, or as the others might say over here, cap, or whatever it is?
Not sure that works, but
Not sure it is either. But it's like, do you want to be great, Brian Norman? Not being funny. Who is Brian Norman? I know Brian Norman's a good fighter. But no one knows who Brian Norman is. We're giving you a bucket load of money and an opportunity for you to unify the division against, in my opinion, one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Now, you say Boots is overrated. You say he's not the bogeyman. Then why wouldn't you take this bucket load of money to prove that you're the best welterweight in the world? So let's just stop with the interviews online. We've gone back 3 times now with more money. To a point, like, with all due respect to Brian Norman, he shouldn't be making this kind of money. But we're ready and we're prepared to pay him it. And then we get told, oh, you're miles off. It's like, we just saw an interview with this guy saying we're right close. We've just gone back with another $250,000, and now you're telling us we're miles away. So I don't believe the bullshit of Brian Norman and the team. If you want the fight, you would have taken the fight. And now, you know, we're in a situation where the IBF, which is absolutely ridiculous, has ordered Trudezian to fight. The rematch. Listen, the kid's a good fighter. Boots has already beaten him. The IBF have got to stop with this. They're ruining boxing by ordering fights that people...
All right, we heard enough from Eddie Hearn. I agree with Eddie Hearn. Double salute to my guy, Lucky McKinnell's Day One supporter. Number 1. What's up, Luck? Luck says in the super chat, some of these fighters are starting to sound like females who say, I am the table, when they bring nothing to the table. I'd have to agree with you, Lucky. I mean, let's keep it 100, Luck. And we talked about this, Lucky. Brian Norman Sr. is saying things about his son, you know, how great his son is, which is nothing wrong with that. But his son hasn't made a name for himself yet. I think that the promotion of saying that his son will beat Boots or knock out Boots is premature. You know, we see a lot of people, other fathers on YouTube, making all of these cases of how great their sons are when their sons haven't done enough yet to have that type of publicity around them. Not saying that the sons are not good at the time, but you're not there yet. You haven't arrived yet. That's just the truth. Brian Norman Jr. have not arrived yet. That's the realities of it. He's still green in the business. And what it shows me is the lack of either experience, competence, or the desire to want to fight Boots. When we look at this, it's either one of those 3. Lack of experience, lack of competence, or the lack of desire from the fighter to fight Boots. I mean, I don't see, and when I'm talking about competence, experience, I'm referring to management. And there's nothing wrong with lacking experience. But I'm seeing the trend right now of these 3 offers being rejected by Brian Norman Jr. and his management team is that you're not going to find this type of money nowhere else in his position. It's not going to happen. That's just the realities of this. And I have to agree with Eddie Hearn on that. Double salute to my guy, Smooth Criminal. Thank you for your contribution and your support to the channel. In the super chat, Smooth Criminal says, a lot of clout chasing in my opinion. That's possible. That's possible. And I have to say this, and I know people don't want to hear it, but you're going to hear it anyway. I'm a boxing manager. So understand this. This is for any boxer that's still actively involved in the sport of boxing, professional boxer. If you're an amateur boxer and you're listening to this, take this, fold this up like a handkerchief, put it in your back pocket, and always remember this. From Manager Marty. The manager worked for you. The manager worked for the fighter. The manager is not your boss. You're an independent contractor, okay? Your representation worked for you. It's just like having an attorney, right? The attorney worked for you. You don't work for the attorney, right? Isn't the boxing manager receiving compensation for services rendered? Yes. Okay, then. The manager worked for you as the professional boxer. With that being said is this. If Brian Norman Jr. want to fight Boots, guess what? He's supposed to tell management, I want to fight Boots. Go out there and you make it happen. Yeah, but they offered us 1.25, and then I renegotiated, and they offered us 1.5, and then I renegotiated again, and then their last offer was 1.75. Guess what Brian Norman Jr., the fighter, is supposed to say? That's good enough. That's almost $2 million. 1.75, say no more. I know I can beat him, and I'm going to knock him out. Make the fight happen now. And then he's supposed to turn to his dad and say, Dad, I'm a grown man. You don't have to do more interviews than me. I'm a grown man. You don't have to talk for me. I understand how you feel, Dad, but I got this from here. You the trainer, right? All right, train me. I'm going to do the interviews from now on because I'm the fighter. And guess what? The spotlight should be on the fighter. I told you that about every other father, so I'm not going to stop doing it now. All the fighters supposed to get the shine, not the dads. I don't want to see fathers take more interviews and getting more interviews on social media than the fighters themselves. That's just my personal, that's just me, y'all. That ain't got nothing to do with the business. That's just the Marty thing. Because I manage these fighters and I know what these fighters have gone through and what they go through behind the scenes when the lights, cameras, and the actions are turned off. They deserve all of the flowers, all of the credit, all the shine, all the publicity. Nobody else. Because you know why? Everybody else that's in their camp and corner and representation take a piece of their purse. Because the fighter is the boss. And everybody else work for the fighter. And that's just why I feel the way I feel on that. That's all I'm saying. Brian Norman Sr. has done more interviews than his son. It's time for Brian Norman Jr. to get the name recognition so that he can have more leverage to go to the table and say, how much you offer me for this Boots fight? Or after this fight, how much you offer me? Oh, Eddie Hearn said he don't know who I am. Eddie Hearn said he knows who I am in the boxing world, but he says nobody else know me. So you know what that means? Dad, fall back. I got to do more interviews. You know what that means? Dad, fall back. I got to do this channel over here on YouTube, that channel over there on YouTube. Yeah, at the press conference, I got to do all the talking, me. Dad, fall back. Since Eddie Hearn, an international promoter, is saying nobody out of boxing knows who I am, I need to improve my social relations. I have to improve my public relations. I have to improve that. And that means that I have to get on camera and do more talking. Trash talking included. Dad, fall back. I got this. I haven't arrived yet, Dad. I appreciate your support and confidence. I'm not there yet. We're getting offered 15 to 20 times more of the money that we made in our last fight and even in our whole career, and may never see that type of money again. That's all I'm saying. Y'all, hey, people gonna get mad, but y'all gonna be all right. Double salute to my guy, Many Face Publishing. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for your contribution. As always, Many Face Publishing says he knew he was writing the check his son can't cash. That's possible. Because everybody in boxing know, and this is not a knock on Brian Norman Jr., but everyone in boxing knows that Brian Norman Jr. is not and will not knock Jaron Boots Ennis out. We already know that. But it's good publicity now. But the problem with that is, as a professional boxer, that everybody that's listening need to listen to this. If you talk crazy on YouTube or Twitter or Instagram or whatever social media platform you on, if you talk crazy, you got to stand on it. I'm talking about within the confines of boxing. I'm not talking about outside of boxing. I'm not talking about being gangster. I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about within the confines of the sport of boxing. If you say, I want to fight such and such next, like Shakur Stevenson said, he'll beat Tank Davis, and what we dealing with Shakur? He fighting a guy named Joe Cordina, who's moving up in weight, his first fight in this division. A guy who just got knocked out. That's what we talking about. So if we can, and guess what? If we can criticize Shakur for doing that, God criticize Brian Norman Jr. You can't say, I'll knock Boots out. I pull up on him in his hometown. And then when the money get offered, y'all decline it. Y'all can't keep doing that. Nobody in boxing can do that no more. If you gonna fight somebody, when the money come and you know it's good money, or I'm gonna use Brian Norman Sr.'s word, it was decent money. Brian Norman Sr. said it was decent money, and their reckless ASSs was willing to jump at it. So what happened then? See, I'm asking questions some people scared to ask. So what happened? All right, so if y'all was reckless and y'all willing to jump at any offer just to make the fight happen, what happened? All right, there's nothing wrong with counter offering. But now we at the last counter offer and the last final offer of 1.75. Now what? What happened? I'm just asking, listen, I'm just asking the question. Because the last time I checked, nobody was talking about Brian Norman Jr. Within the past few months, we were talking about Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. A month, 2, and 3 months after these guys even fought. People forgot Brian Norman Jr. fought on ESPN on the undercard of Never Read in May. In fact, I was waiting to see when his next fight was going to come. Besides him getting a call from Boots, I'm trying to figure out when was his next fight going to happen. Besides him getting a call from Eddie Hearn to fight Boots. All right. Now the IBF just came in. Thank you, Eddie Hearn, for bringing that up. The IBF now inserted themselves, mandating Boots to fight the guy Karen in a rematch. Why? I don't know. But it sounds like to me Karen got good representation. He was able to put in a petition or whatever they did, because nobody was clamoring for a Boots versus Karen fight in no rematch. But they ordered the fight. So now what? Eddie Hearn going to have to pay Brian Norman Jr. 1.75. Then he going to have to pay Karen some bread to step aside for that fight to happen. That's a lot of money Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and DAZN going to have to put out. That's all I'm saying. So the question becomes again, how can Brian Norman Jr. add value? How can Brian Norman add value to Boots, even as the B side? Because if Boots beat this young man, which I believe he will, in dramatic fashion, in my personal opinion. But if Boots beat Brian Norman Jr., what's next for the young man who's 23 years old, taking this tough challenge early on in his career for a big bag? What's next for him? These are the steps and processes that myself and other boxing managers must take before we agree to any terms. We have to know the next 3 fights down the line for our fighters. We don't just go fight by fight by. I mean, I know I don't. See, when you fight by fight, that's because you're a free agent. But when you locked into a guaranteed contract with a promoter, we rolling the red carpet out for you. Why you think Brian Norman got the opportunity to fight in his last fight? Was he the A side in his last fight? I'll let y'all figure that part out. But the bottom line is this. Brian Norman Jr. is not on a commercial level as Boots or anyone else above Boots' level. So the demands that's being made with the money is unnecessary and is unrealistic from the business of boxing perspective that I'm coming with. That's all I'm saying. It's unrealistic. Because if he loses this fight with Boots, if most people didn't know who he was before, they ain't gonna know who he is afterwards. So it's all about building your name up first. It's all about getting into fights that make young, hungry fighters look good. That's why I give credit to one of, if not the best matchmaker in the business, Hall of Famer Brad Goodman over at Top Rank. Y'all heard me say his name a million times in the last 2 years, almost 2 years since I've been on YouTube. And give credit to Top Rank okay, for them hiring him and them working together for over 30 years. All I'm saying is that Brian Norman Jr. is not going to beat Boots. I know it, and some of y'all that know boxing, y'all know this already. And it's okay if he has the confidence to get in that ring and beat Boots. I'm cool with that. He's a fighter. But all this, you deserve more than 1.75? Nah, that's unrealistic. Prove to me. Prove it. What references are the management team using to ask for more than 1.75? You can't say pay-per-view buys. You can't say that because he has none. You can't say 12-round fights because he only have one. You can't say multiple title defenses because he have none. You can't say a lot of knockouts. Well, he didn't early on, but the last knockout that he had was in 2021 in a 6-round fight. You can't say live gate because he never had a fight at home where he headlined it in Georgia. So what reference can be used to justify getting paid the amount of money that he was offered? Not once, not twice, but according to Eddie Hearn and Boots, 3 times. That's all I'm saying. I want to know what y'all thoughts are. What y'all think about that? I think I said enough. What y'all think? I broke it down as plainly as I could here. But I do want to say this. I want to see Brian Norman do more interviews. It don't have to be about Boots. It can be about himself, his life story. In general, who he want to fight. What's happening in the climate of boxing in his opinion, from his perspective. I don't want his father getting more shine than him. I want the fighter to do more interviews. That's just I ain't nobody special. I'm just saying what I think would be a better look for him to build his name up so that he can have name recognition, so he can build up his notoriety, so fans of the sport world outside of boxing can know who he is, since Eddie Hearn said that nobody know who he is. So that sponsors can come and give this young man a check. That's all I'm saying. Because the more we see his dad do the interviews, the sponsors don't know who he is. See, I represent the fighters. I got in this business to help fighters make the bread and learn the business while they do it. Let me ask y'all a question. Y'all know who Tim Bradley Sr. is? Most of y'all don't even know what he even looked like. I'm talking about Tim Bradley's dad. You ever see him do a bunch of interviews? What about Roy Jones Jr. dad? You ever see him do a bunch of interviews? I bet you I'm going to put this name out there and some of y'all might not even know who he is. What about Mike Pavlik? Y'all know who he is? Some of y'all don't even know who Mike Pavlik is. Mike Pavlik is the father of the former middleweight champ of the world. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Kelly Pavlik, one of my favorites. Kelly Pavlik. Kelly Pavlik, his dad. You ever see him do a whole bunch of interviews? I'm just asking the question. Lomachenko's dad. You ever see him do a bunch of interviews? What's wrong with this picture? The fighters keep on getting shunned and getting pushed in the background because their fathers want to do the interviews. Their fathers want the lights. Their fathers want the cameras. Their fathers want the action. It's not about y'all. It's about the young men, the fathers who have these boxing sons. It's about the sons. It's about the young men who these fathers have as boxers. No, hold on, Dad. Fall back. How people's sons is over 20 and 23 and 20. I'm not coming at Bill Haney, but at least, like my man Lucky said, at least Bill Haney waited until his son got to a position to start doing all the talking that he's doing. But I'm just saying is, how come all these dads keep doing all this talking for young men who are in their 20s? I don't get that. 18, 19, 20, all right, cool. All right, cool, I see what you're saying. 23, 24, 25, especially when the brain is fully developed, you need your dad to talk for you no more. Anybody know Gary Russell Sr.? God rest his soul. Anybody know who he is? You ever see him in a bunch of interviews? All the Gary Russell brothers, all of them young men, they're their father. You ever see that? All right. I'm just asking a question. All right then. Just because you're a father don't mean you got to get the press and all the publicity. It's all about the fighters. That's who it's about. Jeff Walker said the boxing brothers. Yes, all the boxing brothers. Their father who died not too long ago. You don't see him being in all these interviews. It's not about the fathers. It's about the sons. It's about the boxers. Let them get the shine. Too many times we keep seeing the dads get more interviews than than the actual fighters. You know more about the fathers than you do the fighters. That's all I'm saying. And guess what it does? It hurts their stock. It hurts these fighters at the negotiating table. Wanna why? Because they working on the father's image and personality and not their own. Shouldn't be like that. Shout out to Angel Garcia. I love Angel and Danny Garcia. But remember, PBC had to tell Angel, you got to calm it down a little bit. You guys. Now, when I talked to Angel, what was that, like a year and some change ago? Angel Garcia told me right to my face that PBC put a muzzle on him. That was his exact words. So what I'm saying is, what it is, and guess what? The more Angel Garcia stopped talking, guess what? The more we heard Danny Garcia's voice. Correct me when I'm wrong. Stop me when I'm lying. Hold me accountable. Errol Spence Sr. Y'all know who that is? That's Errol Spence Jr.'s father. You ever heard him be in a bunch of interviews? I'm just asking a question. That's all I'm doing. All right. It works if you know how to work it. When Bozy do talking, just to clarify this, it's because people go to Bozy and ask him questions. I've never heard of Bozy calling nobody asking for an interview. I've never seen Bozy hear somebody say something that he didn't agree with or like about his son, and then he go on somebody's channel trying to defend what somebody said about his son. I haven't seen Bozy do that. So I'm not including Bozy in that. Bozy talk when people ask him questions and come to his gym and interview him. But you know some of these fathers, they reach out to the boxing voice. They reach out to Mill City. And I'm not saying Mill City don't reach out to them. And I'm not saying Boxing Voice and all these other guys don't reach out to them. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they be so anxious to jump on these platforms to defend what somebody say about their son, who are grown men. It's not about the fathers. It's about the sons who are the fighters. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Because guess what? Even Eddie Hearn had to say, don't nobody know who Brian Norman Jr. is? Eddie Hearn wouldn't have said that if Brian Norman do more interviews. If Brian Norman go buy a camera or use his phone and start recording himself in training camp and make a YouTube channel. I mean, I'm not here to manage the guy. He has a manager. He has representation. But I'm just throwing out suggestions so he can build his name recognition. You ain't hear this. You ain't hear this from nobody else. That's why I'm glad you're here. And you're going to hear people repeat what I'm saying. And that's okay. The bottom line is this. We know that Brian Norman Jr. wanted this fight because of what he said. But we see everybody else around him apparently keep turning it down. So Boots did not duck Brian Norman Jr. He's the A side. His promoter's the one that reached out to them. So we cannot use that narrative. That's not true. We also know that Brian Norman Jr. don't bring anything of value right now except for a title. And yes, the title means something. But that belt is not worth $1.75 million. I just got to keep it 100. Know why? And I wish somebody would ask me how I know. I wish somebody would ask me. How do I know that that belt's not worth $1.75 million? Well, just in case you're thinking about it and you don't ask me, I'm going to tell you how. Because let's say he don't fight Boots right now. Y'all told me when I asked you earlier about a phone booth, when I asked who else can Brian Norman fight in a 12-round fight with his title on the line. And most of y'all told me nobody. All right then. That's my evidence. There's nobody else that Brian Norman Jr. can fight for $1.75 million. All right then. So that's how I, with his title on the line. So what that tell you? This is best opportunity to make that kind of money. I say go ahead and take it, especially if you believe in your heart you can beat the guy, and especially knocking him out. That's easy money. That means that you know in your heart that this fight's not going to go to 4-12 rounds, so you don't have to work as hard. You can end the night early by knocking Boots out. Sounds like an easy decision to me. So who's ducking who? You know what? I'm doing way too much talking. Don't take my word for it.